Now, across the world, the coronavirus has been dubbed the worst health crisis for a generation as 116 countries battle a pandemic. More than 1,000 people have died in Italy and the entire country remains in lockdown. Meanwhile, Ireland has closed all its schools. In Canada, the Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has gone into quarantine as his wife awaits test results for COVID-19, while New York has banned all large public gatherings, shutting down Broadway. The 30-day US travel ban for all European countries apart from the UK and Ireland will come into effect tomorrow. Here's reporter Nick Dole in London.
We had an update from the Prime Minister Boris Johnson and he wasn't mincing his words. He says this is the greatest public health crisis of a generation, and the figures, at least in the UK, are very troubling indeed. 600 people are confirmed as having the virus here in the United Kingdom, but health officials say that number could be as high as 10,000 right now, and it's only likely to climb much higher. So what's the UK doing about it? Are they going to implement similar sorts of regimes that we've seen on the continent and in Ireland? Because Ireland, for example, today banned mass gatherings, closing schools and universities. France has just done the same. We heard a short time ago from Emmanuel Macron. There are more restrictions in Italy, more restrictions in the Netherlands too. So what's the UK going to do about it? Well, at the moment, no schools will close, no universities will close, and people should still go to work, the Prime Minister says. He says that is acting on the best advice from scientific experts, although he does say that in the future that there could be moves to ban mass gatherings, major sporting events, or that kind of thing. He says that this is going to trigger suffering in the UK, and the measures that he wants people to follow, following basic advice like staying at home if you have a cough or a fever, he says that will try to limit that suffering. But he says that sadly there will be many more people here in the UK who die before their time.
Nick Dole reporting there from London. And coronavirus concerns are causing havoc in the US, with many major events being cancelled. North America correspondent David Lipson joins us now from Washington. Dave, g'day. So what were the key developments in the US overnight when it comes to announcements about sports and entertainment?
Well, Joe, we saw major sporting leagues shut down, including, well, we had the NBA yesterday, but today it was the National Hockey League, the National Soccer Association, also baseball. On Broadway in New York City, the lights there went out, the curtains closed, if you like, and the other major attractions like the Met, like the Philharmonic, like the Opera, have shut down as well. We've had state by state and city by city almost on the hour declaring states of emergency. We've got 3 states now that are closing down all schools, and we also have Disneyland in California announcing that it will shut its doors as well. So significant disruptions to communities and culture and also the economy as well.
Yeah. And is there a sense of shock there about what happened on the markets there over the past 12 hours?
Yeah, it just keeps getting worse and worse, doesn't it? 10 points down today off the back of some horror losses throughout the week. And once again, the second time in a week, we saw that circuit breaker triggered in an effort to try to calm the markets. We also saw the Federal Reserve pump $1.5 trillion into the short-term funding for stocks and the markets and the like, financial markets. It didn't have any effect. It did calm things for a matter of minutes, and then the markets, stocks started dropping again. So very severe fallout still going on, and records being broken on a daily basis.
And so what was the effect of Donald Trump's address to the nation? It was a key point for him. It was a very, very serious moment. In Australia here, we heard Scott Morrison overnight kind of assuring people and getting them to calm down that things were being... It was a serious situation, but things were being handled. How did Donald Trump's speech go down?
Well, not well at all. The travel ban that he announced on Europe was... quickly, heavily criticised by the European Union in a rare public rebuke because they said they weren't warned that the action was taken unilaterally, and indeed that at these times of crisis there needs to be consideration and collaboration between allies. But not only that, President Trump actually misspoke during his address. Perhaps he read the teleprompter wrong, or there was a typo in it, we don't exactly know. But he claimed in this primetime national address that all trade to Europe was being restricted as well. It just wasn't true, and he had to try to clean up the mess on Twitter about an hour later, but by then a lot of the damage had been done. On top of that, there were several other sort of falsehoods in that national address, and there continues to be discrepancies between what President Trump is saying publicly and the reality on the ground. For example, today he was saying that everyone coming through airports in the United States was being tested for coronavirus. It's simply not happening at airports here in America. And he also suggested that the tests for coronavirus were proceeding very well. That was just minutes after the top official for infectious diseases here in the United States was giving evidence before a congressional hearing. And he had a very different message. I think we've got those comments from President Trump and Dr. Fauci as well. Take a look.
They have 1 million tests out now. They're going to have, over the next few days, they're going to have 4 million tests out. And frankly, the testing has been going very smooth. If you go to the right agency, if you go to the right area, you get the test.
The system is not really geared to what we need right now, what you are asking for. That is a failing.
And failing, yes.
It is a failing. I mean, let's admit it. The idea of anybody getting it easily, the way people in other countries are doing it, we're not set up for that. Do I think we should be? Yes, but we're not.
Yeah, so the contrast quite significant there. So, David, in that address to the nation, Donald Trump was very critical of what's happened in Europe, how Europe has handled the coronavirus outbreak. But what's the reality about the spread of the virus and the testing regime in the US?
Well, Joe, it's already breaking out right across the United States, and the president has been boasting about the United States' relatively low number of confirmed cases of COVID-19 for weeks. But the reality is there just simply haven't been enough test kits put out, made available, and initially the test kits that were made available were actually faulty. So there has been some praise for the president for the fact he shut the borders, stopped all flights coming in from China early on. That bought the United States some time, but that time was in many ways squandered because people weren't able to be tested, and as a result, the virus was spreading through the community. For example, as of yesterday, just 23 people per million in the United States had been tested for coronavirus. Now, if you compare that to, say, the United Kingdom, 347 per million. If you compare it to, say, Italy, 826 per million. And if you compare it to South Korea, which has been praised for its response to coronavirus, almost 4,000 people per million. And just to remind you, 23 per million in the United States. That's how few people have been tested here. And that is why experts believe that the official numbers here are going to go up dramatically. We spoke to one expert today who said shutting the border to Europe was akin to putting a smoke alarm in once the fire is already burning through your house. Yeah. So these are the sorts of statements that are starting to come to the surface now.
Okay.
And clearly the situation here is much more serious than we thought.
Okay, we'll leave there. David Lipson there in Washington.